Howdy folks, let me get this microphone right because I can hear myself twice. This is better for me. For today, now this is a weird idea. It's not weird, it's a lamp. I want to design a lamp today, which is, I do a lot. And this bit that when I say it's weird, the bit that I think is weird is I find heat sinks very, like heat sinks on CPUs and like any sort of cooling heat sink. I find them very like aesthetically pleasing. I find them like very, they're dense because there's obviously there has to be a lot of surface material in them, a surface area, sorry. And I think that like heavily finned design, I always really like. I've actually designed some bowls in the past which have been inspired by heat sinks. Yeah, I've always liked the heat sink kind of aesthetic, which sounds like a bizarre sentence to say, a heat sink aesthetic. But I designed this lamp here, and I think the heat sink that this made me think of, which is being a lamp, is especially relevant, is you get those, when you used to have like halogen lights, which you would have in your bathroom or something like that, and now they're banned. So now we have these LED ones. And quite often on the back of the LED ones, they have these crazy heat sinks. And I've seen the halogen ones did too, because obviously they were hotter. And that was kind of what I was thinking of here. So if you imagine this line here was cut off and that this was the front of an LED light, which goes in your ceiling, all this being fins, each of these being radial fins. And then in here, having the LED mount. Now, what I'm not fully decided on yet is what I would want to do for the diffusion. Would I want fins for that? Or would I just want something that dropped in? Or would I actually just want it open like this so it shows all the fins, and then a small diffuser goes over here on the cap? I think that probably would be what I'd want to do, because it would show off the fins more. And then this is how I want the lamp to stand. It's not going to be a vertical lamp, it's going to rest on its side like this, so the cable would come out of this area here. Now hopefully with the fins I won't have to put any little legs on to stop it rolling, but if I do, it's not a massive problem. You could put little legs on, or actually just print a little tiny like V-shaped stand, which would then just slot into the fins. So I think that's what I want to do today. So instead of talking about it, I just do it, he said with great confidence. So let's get a new window going. Up. First things first, we're in millimeters. Now I'm going to do this 180. I could scale it up, but when you're doing fins, the problem with fins is you set a thickness, and then if you scale it down, if you find you've made it too big, then those fins get thins, and they don't print well. So I always find it with fins that are too thins. Can't wait for the YouTube captions to try and auto-translate this. When the fins are too thins and you try to shrink it, you get to the point that they're just wobbly and they don't print very well. So it's probably better to go with 180. If I find that it needs to be scaled up, it's not a huge problem because I'm making things bigger. I'm making things thicker as well as bigger. That's the main thing. Things are getting thicker as they get bigger. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to import my just standard stock lamp mount. I always love it when my file manager is up on stream, because it's just like you can get to see the wonderful things such as double-sided prong hand cutter, new tire assemble using prongs. I mean, that's a model. So mount. Whereas this, straight to the point, mount. Now, a really annoying thing about this mount is because I have this little arc which I use to key it to lampshades when they sit on top, so I know the pattern on the lampshade matches the pattern on the base, which is some big brain galaxy thinking there. The problem with it is I've done this a few times actually and not realised, so this is a little top tip for you. So you look at this, it's been imported, it's on the centre. You think when you're going to rotate it, it's central, but it's not, because by default when you go to rotate, it takes the centre of mass, not the arbitrary centre that you think it should be as a human being, surprisingly. So you can see, because there's extra volume here, centre point's actually off. So if you go to rotate and you're rotating 90 degrees, all of a sudden it's no longer centred. And a few times I've designed stuff and not noticed that. And the thing with that is then when I've gone and done the lampshade, I'm like, well, the lampshade and everything fits because obviously everything's designed together. But I'm like, why is the LED not in the middle? And that's been why. So first thing I do when I bring this mount is I set the pivot point with V to the center where it's imported into. Do you find it odd that it imports central? It must have just been in that position when I saved it as an STP file, because it's odd to me that it knows to put it centrally like that there on import, but then not. But these are the mysteries. But yeah, tip, if ever you've got something that you think it's not fully symmetrical, just double check your pivot point when you are centering. So I think I'm going to design this top down. I don't know why, I just think my brain prefers thinking of things in vertical when I'm designing them, even though this is going to actually lie horizontally. Well, kind of horizontally. Right, so I'm not even really going to use that right now, but the reason I brought that in is it just gives you a good idea of scale. Now, another thing is I'm just going to add in a circle that is 240 wide. And that's not necessarily, I mean, I think we will need that full size. That's just so I know what size I don't really want to be going over for the build plate. Because again, if you design it too big and then you have to shrink it down, you get into that thin fins. So I'm going to go with 240 wide. Now, ideally 180 because then it would fit on the A1 Mini, but I just think this as an item is going to need to be bigger to just have the impact that you want it to have. I could make a smaller version if it's a popular design. In fact, I mean, we'll see what it looks like when it's done. But I think initially, let's just go for a 25mm straight edge here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to design profile, make it into a fin, and then radial array the fin. But this is always a bit that I think just needs lots of finagling. Oh, hurt. Didn't expect to be saying finagling today. And what I did on my sketches, I also had it curved at the top here, which, yeah, that will be possible if we print it from the base. I think I like both. That's too aggressive an overhang. So this is the thing you see. So if we print it, imagine this is the bottom. When we print it that way, that overhang will be too big. If we do it so we are effectively printing other way around, so this, that means you have to have a flat surface there. Don't think it's like what I'm wanting, so it might be better. I'm going to just hide that curve and I'm going to bring this out a little bit just to see what sort of shape I can get. Let me just see. I really don't want more than the 45-degree angle if I can get away with it. 45-degree by the looks of it. Right, let's go with that. And actually, let's bring the whole thing in a little bit because I think that does look quite wide. Now, the light's not going to go here. The light's going to be further up, but... Oh. First stream sneeze. Achievement unlocked. I hope you all said bless you. Otherwise, I'll be smited by Satan for the rest of my days. So let's make this into a fin. Now, 3.6, and I've pressed tab to do it both directions. Let's try 2mm, so that'll make a 4mm fin. What do I think about that as a thin fin? I think the easiest way to know whether I like it is just to radial it, and we'll just see how we feel. I feel that looks a little thick, but it could also be that I fill it on the edge. Just what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 0.5 mil off. Sounds like nothing, but both sides, it's a mil. And before doing the radial, the radial array, I'll add a fillet because otherwise I'll have to do it 300 times. Let's have a little look at what we think of this as an array. And I want it to be an even number. Quite like that. Let's go with that. So that was 50 because I can guarantee you in about 15 seconds I'm going to say I need to change the fin and I'll have to delete them all. So remember, stream, remember 50. So what volume do I want? Yeah, so I'm actually going to delete these fins. Yeah, let's delete all those fins because what we could do with is figuring and just getting this internal shape here sorted. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take those curves we did, join them, might offset them a bit more. So what I'm being careful about here is I don't want to make these two smaller fins as well, like in actual center to circumference of the circle that they're making up. I will have to put braces as they go up because tall, thin bits as they print start doing this. And I don't know if you can tell, but it's not ideal for 3D printing this sort of motion. So I'm going to have to like make them rigid to each other. And the best way to do that is just effectively add some bracing inside. Let's just bring this up to where I think I'd want it. I'd probably want it about here. Now, obviously, what I'm going to do is I'm going to integrate it into the fins. I think what I'll then do is I will put a line here. Let's turn off X-ray now. I absolutely hate X-ray and I don't know why. I think it's just busy. So let's just get all of these. Scale Y, because on Y not Z. And then let's grab on the Y and bring them to this line. Yeah, and then that gives us a solid. And basically, I just wanted to make a little bit more at the top here, which I'm not going to include right now. I'm just going to hide that just to see how I feel about it when it looks a rotated array, a radial array, sorry. Yeah, I like, so are these contacting in any place? They're not, which is good. It's good. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a circle here. I'm going to come all the way out to here. I'm just going to pull this up a few mil. What did we say the other one? It was 4 in the end, wasn't it? So we'll do 4. Right, let me get that first fin. I'm going to duplicate it and put it in a groove. Just so if I decide I want to do something different with them, I've got the original fin. And then add all these curves. So that would be basic gist of it. Now, I'm going to have to put at least another 2 braces in. So I think I'll put a 1 there and a 1 possibly here. So this one should actually just be the same as the one I did before. So I can just use this same circle. So if we go now, in an ideal world, I wouldn't have to add these because I think they do detract a little bit from the aesthetic, but can't do anything about it. it won't. It just won't print. What I could have done, a couple more fins, and then they would have actually contacted slightly. So then this would have been a solid surface. But quite like the idea of these tiny little gaps. So I'm just going to keep it this way. I'll just do another circle in here that comes to there. So now I've got a donut rather than a ring like I have at the bottom. So I will chamfer them in just to try and make them as minimal as possible. So let me have a little look at my sketch again. I think we probably want the mount about here. And if I don't, yeah, if I put it about there, then it's recessed in enough. And what I'm thinking is I could chop across here like that and chop those bits off at the top there. Now, not necessarily to get rid of them, but what I'm thinking is I could then print a separate part that acted as like a top. I don't really know if I want to do that or not. First of all, do I actually like that extra bit at the top? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually do the cut. I always say this, but sometimes you just have to do things to literally just to delete the idea from your head. Well, I do anyway, because I just let ideas run away with me. So this might look bad, but it doesn't really matter, does it? And just press undo. So just hide those for a second. Yeah, so straight away. No, it's better with them on. I think what it is, I don't like the angle of them. So, you know what? Rather than deleting them, I'm going to delete all but one. And then we can maybe have a little look to see what we think about doing with this shape. So what I think would be better, this is where I'm going to wish I didn't have fillets. Everybody always says do fillets last. Do fillets last. Don't do fillets until the very last thing. Do I listen? No. So I'm trying to think about what sort of form I want this. So essentially what I don't like is this super flat top and this box. It just looks like exactly what it is, which is a square stuck on the top. Should I try a circle? Just thinking of shapes. Right, so what I did when I do this is curve on the outside straight down to where the light is on the inside, which I remember seeing that on the examples I looked at for lights. So, right. Let's just take that straight edge here as it's fine. But what we want is to effectively fill it off this, and then we can use, probably we could go half the height actually, probably chop this in half. So what I'm thinking of, let me get a section analysis on so it's a bit easier to see. So I'm thinking if we fill it this off so it's curved, maybe about there, and then we make a straight section of the fin here so it's not the same on the inside as the outside. It's one of those things that looks right on the sketch, but then I'm not convinced it's the right approach. But I'm just going to do an isoper on there so I can steal this line so I've got something to bridge from. So if I was to do I want that on the inside? I think I do prefer that. I definitely prefer that. Let's just do array and see what we think when there's lots of them. Yeah, I definitely prefer it, but I think I do need to do something about this fillet. Don't add tangent edges. Yeah, that's what I want. Get rid of these curves. Yeah, now, am I actually happy with this internal here? Or do I want, let me just put a line in here. So what I'm thinking is do I want to do, not, I still don't like this bit here. So if I was to put a line like that to give us this angle, right, let's just try and bridge in a curve there to see what sort of stuff we get. Think about this. I don't want it that far. I want it to chop. So obviously we'd have to cut this as well. I don't know what I think. It's definitely better than the straight. So let's just get that line back again. So effectively done there is pulled it, and then because it's smart and it knows the curves that it's running, it effectively goes with the angle of the curve that's on its face, which is this here. Yeah, 1.5 was it? Yeah, so now will these meet? I don't think they will. I think the better way to do this might be actually to just hide this and make like a surface model it, but just thinking of making a smaller version of the geometry that we can then loft into and just see what it looks like. Bridge those curves and see if we give it a guide whether it's any better. Yeah, I think it is, isn't it? Yeah, let's try this then. I might as well bridge this as well just to give it another guide. I think I'll leave those G2. So now at least this way this surface here has got like fully defined. It's got surface to connect to everywhere. So, and the joint of the main body. So let's just get rid of this bit here. I'm going to take this line here. Now, this is going to be a cut line. My thoughts are, if I find an angle or a line that I quite like, this is a bad idea. Yeah, it's a bad idea. I don't think I like this. Do you know what I think it is? I think it takes away from that heatsink look. It's a bit better when it's straight. Yeah, I think I'm going to get rid of this. This is just me experimenting now, because I can get this modelled in 5 minutes, but I'm kind of now interested about what this is going to do. If you could do this, no, you couldn't. It's too aggressive. Yeah, intersects that way. Where's that bit I cut off? Sometimes the simplest solution is just the best one. Right, so rather than have to redo every fin, let's just cut this top off and radial it. Because I think all the rest will be the same, or will they not be because I made that change? No, they're not. Right, we'll have to do the fin then. That's not really a problem, is it? Hide this. So what's the best way to do this? So if we treat that as the middle of the fin and we radial array, it's still on 50. So if we change it to 100, yeah, if we change that to 100, now we've got the ability to cut this, and then all of this can be hidden. And then I believe we can just do this 50 and we'll be back to where we started. 100 looks cool and all, doesn't it? Oh, wow. I should not have done that. I didn't realise I was just trying to Boolean 50 bodies at once there, which on my new computer worked a treat, but whew, God, that would have made things explode on my old one, which was not even well, it was a bloody brilliant computer, but let's get rid of all these lines. So let me just rotate this just to have a little look at what I think when it's sat down. I like it a lot. Yeah, wicked. It's this bit here. Oh, it's where I cut it before. It also cut this. We're back in one. So let's get my mount. How am I feeling about where the mount's going to go? Do I definitely want it that position? I think I do. A good thing about the mount being here as well is it's more contact area, so there's even less space, less height where it's unsupported left to right, the fin. So really it's going to be from here upwards, which I think should be fine. I'm notoriously bad at guessing this though, which is why I go through 4,000 tons of printing filament a year. Right, well, if we're going to do this, I can't have that overhang there. So let's do this. So now when it's printing upwards, there isn't an overhang. Now this lip here is for E14 and I think E14 bulbs, but this is going to use the LED. So I think what I'll do is I'll print a cap that goes on here that acts as a diffuser. So we don't actually need that little nodule on here. There's another word that's going to be fun to say what the auto captions on YouTube say. So on the mount, this slot here is what I have designed for diffusers. So we'll be able to use that on this design. And I think there'll be enough. Well, that's a good question, David. That's a good question. So what I'm thinking is that obviously it's going to sit in here and the cable comes like this, doesn't it? Now, generally, let me look at this on the side. So the cable would come down here. It might be worth chopping a little bit out this fin, just so there's a bit more clearance for the cable to run down. I think what might be a good idea actually is to just... yeah, let's just do a little bit, like bring the circle up to here. Let's bring it up to the top so you can see. And just extrude a little bit out. Now, it's technically doing that everywhere, but everywhere else is where the mount is, so it doesn't really matter. But there, it just means there's a bit more for the cable to come down. I can probably also just push these ones out a little bit. Yeah, that's a good idea. It just means that it's got, if you think the cable has to bend over, it needs a little bit of space to do so, and I'll just fillet them in a bit just so they're not as, it might actually, because they're now going to have less connection, I'm actually going to take the time to just put in a little brace across them because they'll be more prone to wobbling. These are little things that when you're designing out like lamps especially, you think, oh, it's pretty simple design, and it is a pretty simple design, but there's always just these little things, and I mean that's the difference between designing stuff for a render and designing stuff for a print. If it's going to be an actual product, then it has to work. We don't need that anyway. So what we now need is a hole for the wire to come out of the bottom. I think it's here. It's where we'd want it. It'll need to be big enough for the switch, the little button. And I think yeah, that's big enough. So I think that's pretty good. I actually quite like it now with that. I think it was actually worth spending the time just to mess about backwards and forwards to get this curve here. I have to say, it's one of the things about streaming 3D modeling is I do like to be open with like the little bits, the little struggles and the bits where you just, I don't really know how to get that. All right, not that I don't know how to get it, but it's more that I don't know if this is going to be worth it. And especially when you start to understand the software, you sit there and you go like, right, I know there's maybe 20 steps to do this, and you're looking at it and think, right, I'm not sure this is going to be worth it, and the backtracking that occurs from that. And I think a lot of 3D modeling channels and stuff, there's some fantastic, and in no way is this to be taken as me slating people who do 3D modeling on YouTube, because that is the way I learned. Quite a lot of them are edited videos that I see anyway. Maybe there's, rather than the pure live stream, because the pure live streams, we live in an age of brain rot where constant 15-second dopamine hits are the only way that people are engaged. And I'd love to say that me sitting squinting at the screen, moving a fillet to 6mm is going to hit the dopamine tap for everybody that it hits for me. But that isn't the truth. So a lot of content for 3D modeling is edited, cut heavily, but it's good to do them like this where you can just be, you know what, I went down a path and that path wasn't the path to go down, so I turned around, because we just live in this area where we think perfection is just there and you just take it, but it's not, and it requires an awful lot of just backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. And there will be loads of streams I do in the future where I get to the end of it, I go, this is crap and I don't want to use it. And that in itself has value. Do you know what would be a better idea either? I'm trying to like peek through the castle. What are they called, the bits of the castle? I want to say castle funyuns, but it's not funyuns. Crenellations. Trying to peep through the crenellations here. Just get rid of it. Idiot. So yeah, I'm just making a bulb-looking diffuser here using like a simple loft. Not going to be a full dome, but just want a bit of a taper to it. That means I can bring it away from the light a little bit. I have to admit, I do sometimes find that the grey in Plasticity can be a little bit visually difficult, but I've tried the other ones as well. I think it's just more of a me thing, because obviously you can change things to be like, this one's really good. I mean, it's for normal, checking normals and stuff, but as a Newcastle United fan, obviously a huge fan of the zebra analysis, otherwise known as the barcode analysis, otherwise known as the Bruno Guimaraes analysis. I don't really think I want it to be much bigger. Just let's Shift J that, just to make it a surface. Do you know what I should have done? I should have just made this a solid rather than doing all this bloody surface modelling. I should have just made it a solid and then flipping made it fit. Like, why have I made it so complicated for myself? Just make it a solid and run a hollow command on it. I think I do actually want that, but just cut. Yeah, I think that's more what I'm thinking of. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of. Promise. So it's a diffuser. Let me add in a section analysis just so I can have a little check. I'm not getting any, there's no interference there, is there? Yeah, we can actually add a bit back in. Let's just make it a tiny bit thicker. It's not done all the way around. It has. Right. This is where I bring the body in and go, I flipping hate it. I flipping hate it. I do as well. I've made it far too big. Yeah, that's far too big. I want it to be like, let's say, about there. So I'll have to redesign it. Thankfully, software good, me bad. So, with a fair wind and a great attitude, of which I certainly don't have a great attitude, might just be able to loft these two things together and then the job will be a good one. Actually, just going to go straight. Now, that's not necessarily the best aesthetic, but you won't really see this bit. The reason I'm doing that is it's better for the overhang, because the tangents attempting to make a G1 connection or a G2 connection means it has to have a steep initial bit. Now, this will print this way, so I might end up changing these as well, these fillets at the top, because they're a bit aggressive, aren't they? Well, they're not a bit aggressive, they're a bit not going to print. Does he love Plasticity? Like, that is just flipping marvellous. How cheeky do I feel like being it? Yeah, I should be okay. I think it is. I think I could actually just do the whole thing being lower. Whoa. So if I select the mount and select the diffuser, you notice I haven't named anything today after my, God, sometimes I look tiny in this camera. I'm 6'5". No, I'm going to leave it where it is. Doing that thing where I'm overthinking. Because actually, if I was to just bring it this even further in, yeah, and I'll achieve that by simply chopping the bottom of those fins off so they don't intersect. The red areas are where we're getting intersections. Well, you know what? I actually like that. I do have great fears this is going to be like a day print, because you find with fin stuff, but you use a lot more material than you think, because it's all solid almost. There's not really like a lot of room for infill in here. So the slicers just go like, oh, just do it all edges. So I bet that is going to, and do you know what? I'm actually going to have a little look while we're on stream here just to say, let's just export it. I won't have bamboo slicer on the screen because it's not set up to do so, but bear with me if something explodes while I do this. Right, what's your guess? It's not in yet, but I'm guessing this could be like a really, some seriously nerdy, you know, there's that great website, Guess the Game, Guess the Screenshot, or what? No, Guess the Game, where you guess the screenshot, which I'm absolutely hideously good at. Like, genuinely upsets me how good I am at it. I can't remember what day the bin is, but I can remember that 4 pixel square from that one shot is Metal Gear from the NES, which is a game I've never played, but somehow I know. We could do like a Guess the Slicer, where you're shown a model and you have to guess how long it takes to slice. So I'm going to guess, there was some serious computation went on there. I'm going to guess 1 hour and 1 day. 1 hour. I guess 1 day. No, I'm going to guess 16 hours with a 0.28 layer. I'm hitting slice plate now. It's taken a long time, which tells me there's a lot of things going on. Did I say 16 hours? 16 hours and 14 minutes. And I'm not having you lot not believe me on this one, so one fair moment. Now, I know the doubters in the chat are going to be like, oh, you said a day and then switched to 16 hours. Well, I'm telling you, that was a good guess. And now I'm not even that sure I said 16 hours, which is how my brain works, but that's actually better than I thought it was going to be. And less than a kilo of filament. That's the other thing I was thinking they might end up being, like if it's like a whole roll of filament, I'm just like, there's no point uploading that. I could probably optimize that more as well to get that down probably about 13. But yeah, I think that's been a success. Pretty pleased with that. I will set that as a test print away. I will do my shell. That's me on MakerWorld. There's all these lovely sumptuous models you can get your blips around. I'm just going to pick a random one. Pick a random one, talk about, bang, Instax holders. These are really easy to design, have been very popular. One of my most popular ones, actually. But anyway, yeah, little diamond ones, simple mirrored patterns in Plasticity. Probably took me about 25 minutes to design. I had to go through a couple of iterations of how thick so they hold the pictures properly, because the first one, like the merest breeze would blow the photo out, which I think when you're designing a photo holder, one of the key aspects of it is that it holds the photo. So that required a little bit of a refinement, but that's a thing that you can sell on your Etsy store. You just simply have to join the membership on MakerWorld or go to my Patreon site, which is linked somewhere on my YouTube page. 3 tiers. One is just, wow, what a guy. Just want to give you a few quid. Thank you, I know. The second one is you can sell the models in your Etsy store, only the physical print version, by the way. You are not under any circumstances allowed to sell the model files. And then the top tier is the same, but you also get use of the images. So it's a little bit of a one-stop shop for sorting out your Etsy store if you just want to do that. So yeah, have at it. So that'll do for today. I hope everybody has a wonderful Friday. I think I said on Tuesday, Friday will be fantastic. I did say today might not be a good one, so you are warned. Fantastic Friday. If you're one of those lucky people that doesn't have to work the weekends, live life to the fullest. Enjoy every second of it. Breathe in the air, stare at the stars, absolutely marvel at the clouds, and just have a wonderful time. Have fun, and I shall see you next week. Bye-bye.